Christmas decorations up day, and I'll tell you what, I feel like I got a pretty good jab at getting most of them up today. You know, boy. Anywho, uh, put up some of the pumpkin footage blowing up. Had a good time with that, blasting out some tannerite and scaring the living bejesus out of people. But hey, fun stuff. Fun, fun, fun. Um, got Gunfather series episode in the works. Uh, so it'll be this one will be pretty cool. It's I've been looking forward to doing this one for a while. I'm doing this one will be on Walther or Walther, as you correctly say it. But for those that don't know, definitely going to want to check this out. There's a lot of great information, history, everything along that line with firearms, and I'm a huge nerd when it comes to it, so I get excited over this type of shit. I mean, between this and Famous Outlaws, but it's funny is like Famous Outlaws, especially in the United States, if you're looking in the Wild West, the majority of the guns that you're going to see are going to either be Colts or Smith and Wesson, and it's either you're going to have your percussion or you're going to have your single action army type revolvers. I mean, it's usually in the common areas like that, but with those though, like the outlaw people, for instance, the firearms they have were significant for a reason. So like if you look at Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, for instance, that episode I put out, he had actually tried to bribe the governor of Utah with the Colt, and they called it the amnesty amnesty pistol. Most of the other times that single action army revolver is usually called a peacemaker or something along the line like that. So I mean, there's significant firearms. Kids, but significant firearms. For instance, like I look at the Browning A5 for a semi-auto shotgun, way awesome. You look at you take John Dillinger, for instance. One of the more fascinating outlaws, in United States history. I mean, it's how he got his guns, which was some pretty ballsy moves for starters. And then a number two is like he had somebody who actually machined him custom parts, to make his pistol fully automatic, have a foregrip, extension magazines, and everything like that. So, it's unique stuff like that. That's exciting to me. Dillinger, what's really entertaining, just the idea and the thought of it is like, he'd broken out of multiple jails. Him and his gang actually robbed the police armories, took body armor, took all the guns, everything like that. They had V8 cars back then in the 30s. Regular cops didn't have, the law enforcement agencies didn't have the money to, combat with criminals fleeing over state lines in fast automobiles that they can't keep up with. And then on top of it, you've got the FBI just barely coming around, but they're still considered kind of a joke. And J. Edgar, everybody thought he was just pretty much a waste of the government's money at the time, until around that time era when he started cracking down, and the FBI, was actually proving that having a federal law enforcement agency is worth having. But a lot of those guns, things like that, it's fun stuff historically, but at the same time, a lot of you guys on here have seen, I love the science behind firearms, semi-automatics. I mean, for those that don't know, Browning, I always talk about Browning because he's my favorite gunfather of all time. But Browning, when he was coming up with the idea for a semi-auto shotgun, he was out in this place called Farmington, Utah. Now, it's not too far from Salt Lake. It's probably about a 20-minute drive tops. But he's out there with a bunch of guys from his gun club or whatever. And they're out in this high grass shooting, and he's watching as the blow off from that shotgun's moving those weeds, and then they're blowing backwards. And so he came up with the idea of, well, something to blow back going that way. And then he came up with, the ingenuity of the A5, and that's how he started working on it. I mean, it's interesting to hear these things and how they do that. Some of these guys, like for instance, Smith and Wesson, if I recall, it was Weston, he had actually invented harpoons for whalers that had explosive tips. So once they penetrate the well, they'd explode and kill them, I mean, some odd things like that. If you look at Samuel Colt, with the telegraph lines, he was responsible for coming up with the durable coating to go over telegraph lines, as well as try to have a line that connected from, North America all the way over to Europe. So, I mean, these gun manufacturers, they've all got some pretty unique stories behind them. Look at Oliver Winchester. He was a garment guy. He owned a bunch of textiles. He made a lot of money doing that. He loved guns. He got Henry on board. He bought a few patents off of Browning, stuff like that. Him and Sam Colt actually made a deal that Colt wouldn't pursue making rifles if Winchester didn't pursue making pistols, and that was their gentleman's agreement. But this type of history, it's really cool and fun to think about. Especially with United States, the manufacturers, here, because they were all alive pretty close to the same time, the majority of the big guys. I mean, the 1800s was like, they call it the awakening boom era or whatnot because of so many different churches and crap like that popped up. It's awakening for firearm, ingenuity in manufacturing. I mean, it's unbelievable. I think of the methods they used when they had to actually do the machining and manufacturing back then, working with all those metals and whatnot. I mean, nowadays, we have these awesome CNC mills where, they can program these parts, boom, everything milled out, minimal hand work to be done, a lot of deburring and everything like that, but that's about it. You look at these guys, man, and I just thought, I mean, how do you, as far as quality goes too, I mean, if people are doing a lot of stuff by hand, I know they did have electricity later on, and I know a lot of these gun parts were cast and weren't billets and things like that, but at the same time, it's like, holy shit. I mean, the work to go into those orders. I mean, when Sam Colt, for instance, they wanted 200 revolvers, the government. So Sam Colt manufactures 200 for them. I mean, it's crazy to think that these guys, accomplished all that stuff. It's awesome. I'm thankful for it, and I'm thankful for the Second Amendment. I'm thankful for everybody that's died maintaining that Second Amendment. So, but that's my quick Thanksgiving live for you guys. Thanks so much, everybody watching the channels. I hope you guys all enjoyed your Thanksgiving, had a good time with your family, friends. If you're alone, sorry to hear that. Hopefully you'll have a better day if you didn't. Take care.